It's time for Twig This Week in Google. I'm Jason Howell, filling in for Leo one last week. We've also got Aunt Pruitt sitting next to me here in studio, Florence on one computer, Mathew Ingram on another computer screen. We're going to be talking about Google's employees. They're firing a couple of employees for leaks that are happening. Google's also wondering about political ads. What should it do? Should it go Facebook or should it go Twitter in how it tackles political ads? Maybe you'll want the new Google checking account that when it launches at some point in the near future. And Phil Schiller from Apple had some words about the Chromebook. Very interesting words. He's dropping some bombs. That's up next on This Week in Google.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twig This Week in Google, episode 534, recorded Wednesday, November 13th, 2019. Berries for accuracy, pudding for spread. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by Kaptara. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Kaptara's free website at kaptara.com/twig. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. Yes, it's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/twig. And by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab, with more than $500 million of equipment, including OEMs like NetApp. And it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more and get insights into all that it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. It's time for Twig This Week in Google. I'm Jason Howell, my 4th week replacing Leo on this show. And Leo is back next week because I think he's probably flying back right now. Aunt Pruitt sitting right next to me here at the table. They've got to be on their way back.
Pretty close. Well, I guess close would be like near the East Coast at least.
Yeah, because, I think they're back in town tomorrow. Lisa and Leo get back in town tomorrow. And they're far enough away that this travel is going to take a while. So pretty certain if they have boarded the plane, they are doing so very soon. But I've had so much fun.
One more shot to make this show just totally blow up on air.
We'll see what happens. Good to see you, Ant.
You too.
Good to have you here. Jeff Jarvis and Stacey Higginbotham are not here on the show this week. They are gallivanting. Who knows? Maybe they're connecting with Leo somewhere in the world. I don't think that's what's actually happening.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We have 2 awesome people joining us. First of all, my co-host from All About Android, Florence. What's up, Flo?
I am not a replacement for Stacey, but I feel absolutely honored to be here in Stacey's
Can you explain
seat.
bandwidth spectrum to us, please?
Yeah.
We have a lot of bandwidth spectrum questions.
Anything that we would normally ask Stacey, we're going to ask you, and we're going to expect an answer.
Okay, maybe not. See, this is why I will never be able to fill in her shoes. Like,
That's your
absolutely
wide
not.
band.
Because I learned all that stuff from Stacey.
That's right. Good to see you, Flo, once again. Of course, I saw you last night. Good to see you.
It's been less than 12 hours since I saw you.
Great to have you on this show. Also joining us, I'm just always such a huge fan of your work. Mathew Ingram, Chief Digital Writer for Columbia Journalism Review. How you doing, Mathew?
Good. I apologize for being blurry.
That's okay. I think most people subscribe through audio anyways.
Yeah.
You sound great.
Yep.
But yes, you do look a little blurry. That's okay. That's not a reflection on you.
I'm feeling blurry.
It's great to have you on today. It's been a while since I've had the chance to chat with you and podcast with you, so I'm happy that you're here. So I was going through the doc and everything leading up to this show, and I was just realizing, man, last night on All About Android, we were complaining because there wasn't a whole lot of Android news. Like literally, there was hardly anything newsy to talk about in the Android world.
It's that time of the year, though, right?
I suppose. Apparently, it is.
Yeah,
because
you get to the end of the year and you're sort of trying to just wind down and focus more on what you currently have in the pipe and trying to get customer service up and running and so forth. And then you're ready for January to kick off the all new projects and things that's coming down the pike.
So that's what's happening right now. It's not like impeachment hearings or
I'm just
anything.
talking out the side of my neck. That's all. I don't know.
No, I think you might be right. Things do kind of slow down, especially like suddenly it's going to be Black Friday right around the corner, and then it's going to be buy. So it'll be interesting as we head forward. That. Sorry, I'm going under. I'm going underwater. That was the sound of my submarine going downward. I did too. So let's dive right in. Let's see what we've got here. Carson and I were able to put together a decent amount of Google stories. So we've got some random tidbits here and there. Google, we'll start off with kind of the one at the top here. So I think it's kind of interesting, and I would love to get all of your opinion on this. Google told Bloomberg that it has fired an employee for leaking information to the press. That's names and personal details for one employee. And then 2 others have been placed on leave for violation of company policies. Both of those employees had apparently been participated in some form or other in activism. And of course, Google has this, this is a big recurring theme right now. A lot of employee activism happening, has been for the past year, if not longer, but it's been really in focus in the media and the press for the past year. And now Google is, taking some action to control these leaks. Also, letting the press know, letting Bloomberg know, hey, we're doing something about this, even though Bloomberg probably makes part of its paycheck off of the information that's leaked from these employees. Right. So, it's sort of a double-edged sword, though, because Google has to set a precedence to say, hey, yes, we are aware of these issues and we're working on them and trying to fix them. They have to say that, to the masses or what have you. But at the same time, they still have to keep some things private because this is their business. Right. You can't just let everything out into the wild of your business. Yeah, that seems to be the catch-22. It's like, does Google retaliate against, is this evidence of Google retaliating against people who are taking a stand against the company? Or is this just fair game for a company that wants to protect its assets?
Right, only a lawyer would know. In this instance, if you ask me.
Right. And that's why we have Florence on. She's a lawyer. No, she's not a lawyer. I am just kidding.
Much to my parents' chagrin, I did not become a lawyer. I became a journalist. I was just looking through this and thinking, so I do the Material podcast every week on the Real FM Network, and usually when we're talking about this stuff, it's it gets me very heated because it's hard to see this from a user perspective, because I'm thinking oh, come on, just let your employees have their thoughts and have their feelings about how things are going. But I also agree with Ant that it is this double-edged sword. And I mean, in the end, it is business. And it's the same way that when we cover Android phone leaks, for instance, those people get fired and they get in trouble for leaking stuff to EV Leaks or, to all the other leakers out there. I mean, it's the same thing as when you work for a big company. You're going into a contract that says that you need to keep things within this box, and this is what the box is. And I'm not saying that this means dissent should not happen within the company lines, but I think the idea is to keep the dissent within that particular box. It's we have no idea what's going on at Apple, for instance.
Yeah, we don't even know.
I brought this up before. They're super good at just not. We never know what's happening over there. We never know if there's dissent. We never know what really the employees are talking about. We only know what we see from the keynotes and from perfectly, primed PR packages sort of thing. And I think Google's at the point where it's become such a big player. I mean, there's that whole point of FANG, right? The big tech players, that they're we have to start putting a button on this, even though we started this business being this large open company. So it's hard to put the cat back into the bag, so to speak.
Yeah. Mathew, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this catch-22? Because I can really see both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand Google's perspective. If you're leaking personal details about employees, that's not something that Google wants to have happen. It's an invasion of privacy. I can see them cracking down on that. The one accusation I didn't understand was it said something about someone tracking the individual calendars of staff and that made them uncomfortable. So I'm not sure what the person was doing that for, to see, I guess, where people were going or where they worked. I don't know. But I can see Google saying, look, this is our employees' private information and you shouldn't be publicizing it basically without their permission.
Yeah, not just public, like private, employee privacy, but Google has been able to track, based on this article, been able to track enough information, enough details about what kind of information these people were accessing to know that they really shouldn't have had like any reason to access it to begin with, right?
Like,
and so
why
that
are you
ends up
doing
being
this?
kind of the alert, the call, and it's like, okay, well, they could probably really pinpoint what information has made its way out there. Compare that to kind of some of the access that these employees have had, and then really make that determination that, oh, okay, this we have a strong suspicion this might be the person who's behind this, and this person shouldn't have really would have no need to access this information anyway. So, yeah.
I was just reading the Bloomberg article some more, and it sounds like the calendar tracking was related to this Chrome extension that employees had on their browsers that Google employees felt was an internal surveillance tool, basically, to keep track of who was organizing protests.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Oh, man.
All right. That gets interesting.
And again, getting back to, we don't know both sides of the story. I'm sure there's some particular procedures in place as far as, if you have a complaint, you go to your manager. And then if nothing happens there, you go to the senior manager and you go to HR, so on and so forth. That's pretty much everywhere. None of this stuff it seems to be mentioned in any of these reports that we hear from Google having all of this dissension and issues internally. I still think we have to consider, did any of that stuff even happen? Did any of those procedures even go through to lead to all of these different activist reactions, if you will?
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. And I'll be very curious to see if like this is just the beginning of more, because there has been a lot of this activism happening inside of Google. Is this a signal that, hey, just want you to know, like, we're doing what we need to do to stop this stuff? And again, it puts Google in an interesting position, because in many cases, a lot of what they're being criticized for is pretty fair. Like,
Yeah,
it is. So there's a fair argument to be made around some of these decisions that Google has made that some of these employees are understandably upset about. But what are the lengths that these employees are going to make a change? And maybe the change is worth taking those risks.
Yeah.
Maybe it isn't. I guess we don't understand the actual data that's being shared there. It's really hard to know.
It does make me wonder just how good is it at Apple, or just how bad is it at Apple? Because you never hear about this type of stuff coming from the Apple campus. Or is Apple really good at keeping that stuff on the wraps and quiet and handling it internally? Yeah,
that's exactly what Flo was saying. As far as that's concerned, you really do not hear this sort of thing happening with Apple. And then a decent amount of information is leaked out of Facebook recently. The all hands videos, that's becoming a new kind of like focal point on interior employee leakers. It's like, all right, well, there's a lot to be gained if we're going to target these all hands meetings and get those out there. That's really kind of lifting the veil a little bit even further. And I'm sure they don't appreciate it when that happens too. But you don't hear about that with Apple. You never hear about that with Apple.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's the Skype not being in person thing. I apologize.
You're okay.
I wanted to say that it's interesting because today there was also news that several employees have resigned at GitHub, which is a Microsoft-owned entity, over not just their involvement with ICE, but a couple of other things, I guess, have been bubbling under the surface. So it's not to say that this is just a Google problem. I think that we're going to see a lot more from this, like Silicon Valley-wide and tech sector-wide, just seeing like employees who just are tired of kind of sitting in the cubicle and doling away while all this stuff goes on. So it'll be, I feel like 2020 is going to be a really, this stuff kind of started seeding in late 2018. So we're approaching that time. It kind of fits in with like what's going on in American politics. So it's going to be an interesting time.
No doubt. No question. Yeah, I had missed that GitHub news.
It's been quietly trickling around Twitter, so that's the only reason I just happened to follow the right people to get the news today. So
Flo follows the right people.
well, yes.
Let's see here. There's some really interesting like I'm trying to find the follow-up story, and I don't want to go I want to kind of keep on this down this rabbit hole a little bit, because there's a decent amount of stories that kind of follow along the same vein. And I think maybe the same vein is just Google stepping in puddles here and there and being like, man, not another one.
Which is hilarious because it hasn't rained in California.
Yeah, I know. It's sad, actually. It's really sad. Google is collecting health data on millions across 21 states. This was news that broke, I think, maybe this was late last week. I can't remember. The Wall Street Journal. Project Nightingale began in secret last year with Extension, an agreement with Extension, 2,600 hospitals, doctors' offices, facilities, working in secret. So patients weren't notified, doctors weren't notified, yet all the information that they're kind of entering into the systems apparently being shared with Google. This would include things like lab results, diagnoses, hospitalization records, complete health histories, including patient names, date of birth, things that, I mean, if you're a patient and medical information is about as private as it gets, you probably want to know at the very least, or not have it happen at the very most.
I didn't see this particular article, but it makes me wonder who was involved at the hospital. Was it the board of directors that was involved in this? Because somebody had to know.
Yeah, right. There's an obvious agreement here. The hiding of the relationship was done from anyone who apparently is involved, like on the ground floor. You know what I mean? Anybody who's actually collecting this information and data, entering it in the system. Apparently it's being used, the data is being used for Google to develop software that would suggest certain outcomes based on all of that data. So maybe this would be software that could be used in a hospital setting, something like that could suggest treatment plans, test suggestions, flagging unusual deviations. And that's a
computational medicine, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. Using their artificial intelligence
I'm fine with that, but just say that up front. Hey,
so why did they keep it secret?
Yeah, just I
mean,
go ahead.
It sounds like a great idea, but why not say that's what we're doing?
It's a really great question.
Optics.
Perhaps, like maybe.
Because the thing is, there are so many healthcare companies that are doing this exact thing. I mean, if you think about all the consulting companies out there that have been contracted by the big healthcare providers, they're constantly improving their tech infrastructure, not just as a way to kind of attract. I mean, it looks good to have like good tech, right? Because when you attract people, I mean, you're charging us all this money for health insurance in the US. So, you want to make it seem like it's worth our while. And so you have to share data in those terms when you're building out whatever new piece of software is being used, like between patients and doctors. I mean, we wouldn't have the ability to like communicate with our doctors directly via email and all these other sort of little apps and suites that are available without that data being used and, programmed in a way. I think the biggest thing here, and I've had a couple people kind of bring this up to me because at first I was like, what's the big deal? This is like a thing that happens in healthcare all the time. Like, it's not just Google. But I think the big thing is that for Google, the end goal is to push a product forth. So maybe, yes, it does sound like that's great to have that machine learning kind of ability, but you don't necessarily need to have Google to do that. There are other cloud backends that can kind of help. Granted, they're not maybe as sophisticated as Google's machine learning, but they can help facilitate that. Especially just like with the recent news about data, what we've heard about, like what Google's acquired from Fitbit, that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
It scares people because the idea is, oh, well, at the end of the day, all of this is going to be pushed to push the assistant on us. That kind of thing. I think that's where like the real fear stems for a lot of people versus like what the actual benefits will be is, patients deal with their doctors. And I agree with Ant. We should have opted into it. We should have had an email come to customers that were dealing with this company and said that, like, hey, just so you know, do you opt in for your data to be used for this future project? YN. That's all you have to do.
Right. Yeah. So correction, this happened on Monday. The Wall Street Journal article hit on Monday. Tuesday, that's the day after this happened, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Civil Rights Office opened an inquiry into this. Alphabet is, of course, saying that, they're governed by U.S. health privacy law. That gives them the ability to obtain access to patient records for the task of organizing their various health care systems. They say we're doing it the way we're allowed to do it.
Loophole.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think what's weird for me in something like this is like not de-identifying it, not you know what I mean? Maybe there's a reason for not anonymizing it, but when I think of like these big data sharing deals and stuff like that, at least the small glimmer of hope that you can feel in that is that usually it's anonymized at least. And in this case, it's like the most personal information and names are attached. And you take that in combination with Google and the trouble that it's been getting into lately, or at least the optics around what it's doing with data and everything. And like you said, Flo, the optics is just not good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, I just recently sorry, go ahead.
Go, Matthew.
I was just going to say, if you're concerned about optics, it looks really bad if you keep something secret and then the Wall Street Journal reports it. That's the worst possible optic.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? Like, that's a lesson that never seems to get learned, and not just by Google. So true. The optics are so much worse when it's done in secret and then discovered in some
We're
big...
supposed to learn this as children.
Right. But we're all still children, let's be real. Even though we're grown up. Yeah. So that's really interesting.
When I'm thinking a little bit more about this with Google potentially pushing a product, I start to think about the health insurance companies. I've dealt with the healthcare systems in the past from an IT standpoint, and they can be quite shisty and really concerned about the bottom line and taking as much data as they want to try to figure out their bottom line, doing all of this analysis on this type of treatment versus this type of treatment versus this age, so on and so forth. But yet they seem to get a pass when it comes to that, because they take all of that data and look at it and figure out how are they going to bill black man over 30 weighing such and such. How are they going to bill him for his insurance each and every year? You know, and that's big business. But no one really seems to gripe about that. Is it because their healthcare systems versus Google being as big as Google is? I don't know.
Yeah. Now I'm reading through. I was not aware that Google had made a post of this a couple of days ago.
Neither.
And one of the one of the QAs is, was your work with Ascension a secret? And they admit in here, or they say in here, our work was not a secret. In fact, we announced it. The partnership with Ascension in July on the Q2 earnings call.
On the call, okay.
On the call, so
that's
out
public
there.
knowledge then.
Public knowledge.
Yeah.
Public knowledge,
Totally
except for all the patients whose data was slurped up. I don't know. Yeah, I'm also trying to not be super reactive to every single little thing, because that gets you nowhere.
Where's the fun in that? Come on,
that's
react.
true. That's true. So trying to be fair here, but there you go. So interesting stuff. Let's take a break. I'm going to thank the sponsor, and then we'll get into a whole lot more. We've got a lot more to talk about. But first, this episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by Kaptara. Kaptara is the leading free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your business. So if you have the dream of being more productive, well, here you are. Here's the tool for you. This is going to save you time. It's going to upgrade the way that you work with the right software. You can explore software and narrow down your favorite options in minutes with software guides and comparison tools. You can start making your work be less work and find the right software. You just go to kaptara.com/TWIG. With over 1 million reviews of products from real software users, you can discover everything you need to make an informed decision. That's validation that you can trust, and you can be confident with your purchase when you make it. So don't forget to also leave a review and continue to help Kaptara be the leading free online resource of software solutions. That's a big part of what Kaptara is all about. It's other users of Kaptara reviewing the software that they're using. So that's the part of the community effect. You can search more than 700 specific categories of software, everything from digital workplace software to video management software. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Kaptara makes it easy to discover the right solution fast. And Kaptara believes that software makes the world a better place because software can help every organization become a more efficient, effective version of itself. And it's just, with 700 specific categories, it's fun to kind of hop in there and see what you can find, jump around. You won't have realized that there's specific software tailored to a particular category until you jump in there and you're like, wow, okay. That's interesting that there's a business designed for it, but it makes sense because it enables you to run your business the way it needs to be run. That's what it's all about. Join the millions of people who use Kaptara each month to find the right tools for their business. You can visit kaptara.com/twig for free today to find the tools to make an informed decision for your business. That's kaptara.com/twig. I'll spell that out. kapterra.com/twig. Kaptara is software selection simplified, and we thank them for their support of This Week in Google. All right. There's a little bit of a thread in multiple parts of this doc around political ads because this has been kind of a thing that's happening. And I know, Ant, I know you don't love the politics stuff. We don't have to get into politics. But I think the policy is interesting. The policy of the companies, who are kind of working around these things can be kind of interesting. All these big tech platforms are really considering their approach to political ads right now. Google is taking a look as well. Sources say that Google is looking to change its ad policy with changes expected to be shared with employees sometime this week. So employees might actually hear something, and whether they share that with us or not, depending on who's leaking on the inside, we'll probably hear at some point too.
We'll hear about it on Saturday.
Right. The changes themselves are unknown at this time, but the sources think that it could relate to the types of audience targeting that's allowed for ad buying on the Google networks. Of course, this follows on the heels of Twitter announcing a few weeks ago that it would stop accepting political ads and issue ads last month. Mathew, I'm really curious on your take on this. Do you think that Twitter announcing that do you think that's the right approach here? Because these companies, they're all choosing different directions. Facebook's kind of like, I don't know, we don't see what the big problem is. Twitter's like, we don't want anything to do with it. Like, I don't know, what's your take on this?
I think Twitter's announcement was definitely calculated it was a shot at Facebook. It was basically one giant subtweet of Mark Zuckerberg. Everything Jack Dorsey talked about was directed at Facebook, the way they target and how that's bad. So I've talked to a bunch of researchers and social scientists and people who work in advertising and tech, and a bunch of them said, it's fine for Twitter to say, we're just not going to have political ads. But what's a political ad? If you want to advertise, hey, we want to talk about climate change. Well, that's a political topic. What if you want to advertise and it relates to education? Well, that's a political topic too. So how is Twitter going to decide, this is political and this is not? So this is allowed and this is not. And we've already seen they're talking about, well, we're going to allow issue ads, but not if they're politically related. Well,
but aren't all issues politically related nowadays?
Yeah, huge gray area.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Everything's political. So, I think in a way, Twitter and Facebook, they've each chosen an extreme, and probably both of them are bad. So Facebook is saying, look, we're just going to basically let anything go because we have to do that. And that's probably the wrong decision. There's fake Trump campaign ads filled with lies circulating around Facebook. Facebook
worldwide.
Is making money from them.
It's not just in the United
worldwide.
States. It's affecting.
And they make money from that. And so it looks like they don't care because it's a big business for them. But probably the right answer is somewhere in between, somehow to keep political campaigns from just promoting blatant falsehoods without kind of trying to do what Twitter's doing and get rid of political ads completely, which just doesn't seem workable at all.
Yeah, it's a bold proclamation to say we're not doing anything. And it did what it was designed to do. It got everybody talking about it and going, whoa, Twitter. Although at the same time, I'm kind of like, yeah, but that's like the social network that's like never doing as well as it maybe should be doing. So cutting off the siphon of money there might not be a good business move.
Business for them anyway.
But maybe it wasn't a big business for them anyways. Okay.
So there wasn't.
So they didn't have as much to lose. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Facebook would lose a lot if it decided to do
story.
that.
They would lose a lot of Russian money. Sorry, what?
Possibly
I talked to Alex Stamos, who was the head of security at Facebook, and we were talking about what he sees as the problem with political advertising on Facebook. And he said, obviously, blatant falsehoods are a problem, but for him, a bigger problem was targeting. And I know that Mark Zuckerberg has said that has reportedly said that he's interested in thinking about that issue. That's something I bet Google is thinking about as well. So it's not so much whether there's just pure falsehoods. If you can micro-target falsehoods to people who are more likely to believe them, that's a significant problem. So Alex Stamos said that he thought there should be some form of regulation if the companies don't want to do it themselves, to restrict the sort of size of a group that you can micro-target with a political campaign message.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems very effective. And that seems to fall kind of in line with what the sources are saying about what Google might be working on, really narrowing in on that. Just last week, YouTube ran an ad that was accusing, the whole Joe Biden corruption in Ukraine policies thing. Seen 10 to 30 million times. That's a big swing. So somewhere in there, it's a lot of million views. YouTube says the ad specifically didn't break the rules, as it currently has no exceptions for political ads. But CNN had pointed out that the terms state, we don't allow ads or destinations that intend to deceive users by excluding relevant information or giving misleading information about products, services, businesses, that sort of stuff. And YouTube would not really explain why the ad didn't fall into enforcement of those rules. So they're all grappling to deal with this, especially as we are now less than a year away from the election, the U.S. election.
Yeah, this is the time it's really going to heat up.
This is the time. Yeah, we're going to be hearing more and more about this. Kind of feels like maybe this should have been figured out earlier than now, but...
No, you always want this stuff to happen right around the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday.
It keeps the dinner table just full of conversation.
Oh, boy. Yeah, doesn't it? So joyful every Thanksgiving.
This is all perfect timing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we aren't advertising food that's the best for food fights at Thanksgiving, because I feel like that's the artillery that's in front of you at the time.
Turnip casserole.
Yeah, don't you take away the pumpkin pie. Don't take that. That would be excellent in a food fight. Don't take it away, though.
That's true, and I would be really bummed not to have any of that after fighting physically with my family.
Well, you've planted a seed.
Actually, okay, I know I'm going off script here, but this is fun. Have you ever been in a food fight? Has everyone I feel like that's the kind of thing that you just see on TV and movies, but you've never actually been in one.
I have not. I've seen one, but I have not been in it.
I would love to get in a food fight. I've never been in a food fight.
I've been in a mud fight.
Okay. That kind of I mean, it's not food. You wouldn't eat mud.
Back when it rained in California.
Yeah. Mathew, we want to learn something about you today. Have you ever been in a food fight?
Oh, boy.
I have not. No.
We invited you on for the really hard questions, okay? Have you ever been in a food fight? Karsten, I want to know. You seem like someone who would get in a food fight.
Oh, he started them.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
I have nothing more to add.
Right.
All right, good. I'm happy we tackled the really difficult.
It's all publicly available in the police report.
Right. Do a search.
Don't dig too deep.
You don't want to go there, man. I've got a pie waiting for you. Okay, good. I'm happy that we know this about each other now. And we know that we need, next time we're all in the same room, to have a food fight, and then we can all say yes. What else? Let's see here.
Berries and pudding.
What's that?
Berries and pudding are the best.
He already knows.
Through experience.
Pudding for sure, yeah.
Pudding would be good, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Although I imagine it would kind of go in all directions if you throw it. It would.
That's
it's
the
not
point.
but it's not like a concentrated Yeah, it's more of like a spray attack
Buckshot.
maneuver. It's not. Yes, it's a buckshot.
Exactly. You got
The important discussion.
All right. I'm sorry. I had to go food fight for some reason.
I brought it up.
All right.
Mr. Leo is not going to let this happen ever again.
Ever again. YouTube rolled out some new updated terms of service effective December 10th. They say YouTubers are under no obligation to host or serve content, which really just sounds like I'm kind of surprised that wasn't in there to begin with. That makes sense. But the thing that got everybody all out of sorts was YouTube may terminate your access or your Google account's access to all or part of the service if YouTube believes in its sole discretion that provision of the service to you is no longer commercially viable.
Please explain this. My son came to me this Sunday night, like almost weeping. Like he was so worried about that Google was going to take away his non-commercially viable YouTube channel.
Now, how did your son learn about this? Through you, or did he just find it?
He found this through
creators who were freaking out.
Through everyone. Everyone is freaking out about this.
All the creators
what about
out there.
Family hosted video channels on YouTube, like.
Well, yeah, those. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, what is commercially viable? Right. I mean, those things are getting millions of views. Seems pretty commercially viable to me.
Right. That's the thing. You got to look at what their definition is as far as how much are they going to capitalize off of it. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. So I mean, creators, of course, were worried about this. Also, this could potentially apply to users. Like, some people were like, well, what if I, use an ad block to not see? That makes me as a user not commercially viable.
That was, my son had a question about that too. He was like, Dad, you can't use ad block anymore. They're going to kill me.
Killing my profits, Dad.
and not only that, they mentioned in here, terminating access or your Google account's access. Like, it kind of alludes to this idea that if you are no longer commercially viable, your Google account goes away.
Yeah, I'm going to lose Gmail now.
I didn't read it that way.
That's
I didn't read it that way either, but some people did.
My son read that if you use ad block or your Google or your YouTube channel is not commercially viable, you are not a good U.S. citizen, then you get no more Gmail.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a feeling I have a feeling that comes from creators who realized they could get a special release with a lot of views by freaking out about this. Google has replied. They've said we're not changing the way our products work, how we collect or process data, or any of your settings, which is kind of wide open and everything. But I mean, I think I guess what I'm taking from that is like, don't worry, the sky is not falling. We're not going to suddenly start to just deleting accounts willy-nilly.
We'll just delete you in about 2 years instead of next year.
Yes, when you forget about it somewhere down the line. Google also told Mashable there are no new rights in our term of service to terminate an account because it's not making money. As before, we may discontinue certain YouTube features or parts of the service. For example, if they're outdated or have low usage, this does not impact creators or viewers in any new ways.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of wedding photographers out there who need their channels to remain up.
I mean, that would be a pretty big deal if YouTube just suddenly started taking down videos. Like, I don't see that happening. I don't see why YouTube would do that. There obviously there must be some reason that they put this in there, but I just really don't see them suddenly being like, how we told you to like upload every single thing you've ever done in your entire life to our service. We've decided we're not going to do that anymore, and we're going to take a bunch of it down. I just don't see them doing that.
No, it's not going to. That's not helping their bottom line. They're still a business that's wanting to capitalize on any data that you're feeding it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to just start cutting things out. And unless it's something, of course, that needs to be flagged or what have you, which is a whole different story. But all of this news, it really did just sort of catch me out of left field. Like this makes no sense. Commercially viable. Who is commercially viable?
What does that even mean?
My 10-year-old or the hot producer like Peter McKinnon or what have you. And he's making money off of YouTube, but that's not his primary source, and so he's not going to put all of his effort into YouTube. Most of those great creators, they're not putting all of their effort there. It's just another little spot to advertise their services.
Yeah. vehicle for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would guess that the sky is not falling.
No.
Not here anyways.
Not yet.
This sky is not falling.
Not yet.
Other skies maybe, but this particular sky I'm guessing is not falling. I guess we don't have the 100% on that, but
The chat room is asking, but does YouTube make money? YouTube is definitely making some money.
Oh, yeah,
They're
definitely
making money.
Billions.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time there where that was always the story. YouTube's still around and it still hasn't made any money. Those days have long passed.
Yeah,
YouTube's doing pretty good.
Creators are not making a ton of money.
Last
but YouTube
estimate I
is.
saw was like 8 billion or something.
Wow. I mean,
Well, creators also make money through spawn cons and lots
Right.
of
That's where they're getting the bulk.
collabs and all these other buzzwords.
What is a spawn con?
Sponsored
A
content.
sponsored content.
So sponsored. Okay,
content.
I know that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't operate in the world of shortening
even
the
I
word
knew-
sponsored content.
Even I knew that, and you're way more hip than me.
Hashtag ad. This pen is so great. It's erasable. Did you know? Let me show you how I can erase it off of a piece of paper.
I think I saw something just yesterday that said on average, sponsored content earns the person who posts it somewhere between like $1,500 and $2,000 for a post.
That's
On
I
insane.
mean, that's not bad. Do you know how much work I have to do for? Okay.
Yeah, that's insane.
Maybe you need to get in some SpawnCon flow.
That's insane.
Ethical implications.
I'm just saying, you got options.
I've thought about it. I have a list of the day that I decide to just throw it all away.
All right. Keep it as an option on the horizon.
It'll never be tea.
Google is about to make a move into the checking account making business, apparently. Again, Wall Street Journal reporting on a project called Cash, but not like C-A-S-H, it's C-A-C-H-E. You
That
get
would
it?
have been more clever, right?
Yeah, I think they're kind of doing the double meaning thing there.
C-H-E-S-E.
C-A-C-H-E, so cash, like cash in your browser, even though it's cash money.
Sorry.
That's
For whatever reason, they went with the
Clever.
cash in your browser. Yeah,
Okay.
Clever.
because they're Google, I guess.
nerds.
Partnership with partnership with banks, credit unions to offer checking accounts, but not positioning itself the way Apple does, where it's like this is an Apple card. Yes, it's a Google card of some sort, but they're really relying on the banks handling all the financial, the compliance activities. The banks really just taking the lead, being front and center. So with that information, I'm like, how is Google involved?
Yeah.
Google Pay.
I don't want
Maybe.
any part of that myself because they've been so flaky when it comes to financial stuff, whether it's was it Android Pay now or is it Google Pay now?
It's been 3 or 4 things. Yeah, now it's Google Pay.
So now it's okay, and
Then
then
it was Android Pay, and it was Google Wallet, and it was
yeah,
it was
I-
many
It's
things,
still the same service, and it hasn't changed. They just keep changing
except for the name every 2 years.
I don't trust it. If they're leaning on the
Still
banks,
works just fine.
Yeah, it works.
if they're
I use
leaning
it
on the
everywhere.
banks,
Facebook Pay is coming too, right?
That's right, Facebook Pay.
said it- yeah.
there's a Facebook Pay.
And is that now? I know very little about. Yes, there's Facebook Pay coming. I know very little about this. Are you familiar with it, Mathew? Like, how would
No,
it
I just
differentiate?
read about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would it sounds like it's going to be payment built into Instagram and WhatsApp and,
Yeah.
Facebook Messenger. So you could pay people easily.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
I imagine Google would do the same with this sort of thing because, like, now when you check out online retailers, like indie retailers, indie artists, you can use the most common ones I see are PayPal, number 1. Number 2 is Afterpay, which is another service that's come out that's like it's basically you're borrowing money and you can pay it in like increments to the person selling you the thing, and Google Pay. And so,
so
way
it's
you
like
can give
layaway.
Google-
That's what it sounds like. Digital layaway.
do you
Cool.
remember layaway?
I do.
Remember?
Yeah, Afterpay is like digital. It's like digital
Afterpay,
layaway, and I don't know how it works. So I've been very curious because I've been seeing it all over Instagram, like now accepting Afterpay for like this indie product. And so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Google was trying to like get a piece of the pie in this to just become more like more online, more in every part of the internet.
Yeah. Well, no question about that.
If they're leaning on the banks to handle all of this infrastructure, what is Google getting out of this?
Well, so
Sorry.
Well, you're right. Data, great for data gathering, customer behavior, knowing about all that kind of stuff. They have plans to offer things like loyalty programs, also possibly entice people with no service fees.
So that's the same thing Amazon is doing essentially, right? Amazon knows what you're buying and when you buy it and what you're using to pay for it with each and every time, because they know, hey, all right, last time you used this card, so let's go ahead and use this card again. And then 2 days later, hey, remember when you bought this? You may want to buy this too. We can ship it right now. It's
working pretty well for Amazon, actually. Yeah.
But those Google advertisements kind of really supercharge their ability to just hone in on exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, would you get a Google credit card, a Google checking account?
No.
Okay, Ant says no.
No.
Flo, I get the feeling that you would.
Yeah, it depends on the perk.
Okay. It's a perk sort of thing.
You all know I'm a coupon clipper, so I need what is the perk? Do I get cash back?
Right.
Do I get some added, things with it? Sweeten the deal for me, because
do you get a credit card that's made of titanium? Made out of titanium. Was that important to you?
Chromium.
Made out of chromium.
Okay.
Matthew, is this something that sounds like intriguing for you? Like, would you have a problem with Google having its hands in your finances?
Don't word it like that.
Well, it's kind of that.
I guess I wouldn't. I mean, I just assume that they already probably know almost everything about me anyway,
exactly.
or they could find it out quite easily. So I don't actually, this is probably the wrong attitude, but I don't actually feel like it would be a significant change from what they kind of could already figure out.
Totally.
And they have so many connections to, financial databases and health databases and stuff like Ascension that we don't even know about. I figure they could probably get all that stuff anyway. So
yeah.
I probably would go for it.
With what Miss Flo said, I guess it would depend on the perks being worth it,
Sure.
So I probably would if it's got nice perks, but if it's not offering
it's kind
anything,
of a toss-up, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you trust less, like your bank or Google? Right? It's like, it's like the worst of two evils, like who's worse, the telephone company or the cable company?
Exactly.
It's hard. It's a toss-up, really.
Well, and considering that Google is working in such close partnership with your bank, it's kind of like both of them. So it's like, do you just not trust your bank, or do you just not trust both of them at the same time?
Dadgummit, man.
Both of them. So then the perks would have to be really good. Really good. Maybe you get what is it called when you sign up for the Google data, like $2 a month? I literally just Google One or something like that. Maybe you get that for free.
Oh yeah.
So you get 100 gigs of extra data every month for free, included with your credit card.
And for some people, that's a pretty good value.
Yeah.
Totally. I remember looking at your drive.
Sorry.
Oh, you remember looking at my drive, do you? Yeah. I don't know that you looked at it, but we talked about it. If you looked at it, that's news. That's information that I was not privy to.
I mean, talked about.
Okay. So this is kind of Google related. I thought this was interesting. Today, you may have heard a company called Apple released a new MacBook Pro. Mm-hmm. And along with that dynamite, Phil Schiller dropped a bomb on Chromebooks. Mm-hmm. He said, and it's just fun to read the whole quote, "You need to have these cutting-edge learning tools to help kids really achieve their best results." He's talking about in schools. Yet Chromebooks don't do that. Chromebooks have gotten to the classroom because, frankly, they're cheap testing tools for required testing. If all you want to do is test kids, well, maybe a cheap notebook will do that, but they're not going to succeed.
Okay. Well, so a $3,000 notebook is the answer for the schools that have no money?
Right. What were you going to say, Matthew?
Right. I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, I give him credit for trying to win some cheap PR points or whatever on Chromebooks, but it's a ridiculous argument. I mean, I bet the vast majority of schools couldn't possibly afford to buy MacBooks even if they wanted to. So is Apple going to give every school in the U.S. and every child a MacBook? That'd be great.
Everybody tweet at him about that. See if they'll do that.
Yeah.
Even
Put your money where
iPads
your
are
mouth is.
expensive, by
Right.
the way. They're $300 a piece.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they are. They're
300.
very
Yeah.
expensive.
300 times a classroom of 30. Like when you hear about iPads being used in the school, you are usually hearing about smaller schools, whether they're charter schools or maybe there's like a private public kind of funding going into
A lot more
it.
funding coming in, right?
Yeah. I mean, and, let's also remember that like a lot of schools are funded through property taxes. And so when you are in a more affluent area, of course, the kids there are going to be able to have like Apple computers and startup camps and all that. But the appeal of the Chromebook was that it was an entry level budget way to get kids that tech education that they need to have, because some kids still don't even have the internet at home. Like it is still a privilege and a luxury. And I understand that a lot of this comment from Phil Schiller was just about like Chromebooks versus Apple laptops. But when I look at it deeper, it kind of bothers me because it just feels it just feels like it's kind of missing the point of why one platform is making it over another. And granted, both of the companies involved are doing this for money and to propagate their various ecosystems among the world. But we have to really think about like why is that school district using a Chromebook, and why do they have like Apple computers? And
yeah. Agreed. Phil Schiller actually tweeted about this after the fact. So this was all from an interview that he did with CNET that published this morning. His tweet, he says, every child has the ability to succeed. Helping them to do that has always been our mission. In the full conversation with CNET, we discussed giving kids and teachers the content, curriculum, and tools they need to learn, explore, and grow, not just take a test. So, I don't know, is he implying that CNET just didn't print or didn't go with the full quote or something there? Is that what that means?
He screwed up. He went about this the wrong way, because those Chromebooks are not just taking tests. They are not. These tools
Absolutely
are
not.
being used to the best of their ability, especially in these schools that don't have the huge budgets.
Yeah.
I mean, even here in freaking Petaluma area, whatever, they're using Chromebooks and they're getting work done.
They are.
That needs to be done.
Absolutely. I've seen it with my eyes.
Cloud-based and everything. You don't need an expensive notebook from Apple or Microsoft to get that stuff done. If you can do it on a Chromebook, do it on a Chromebook.
Sure enough.
yes.
Especially when there's tax dollars at stake. Get the most out of that.
And let's look at why some schools are very focused on testing and ensuring that maybe kids, it's because they're looking for funding.
Right.
In a lot of ways that money comes through is based on arbitrary test scores, really, in the end. So it's not the Chromebook. These are two companies fighting over each other for for our children's market share, I guess you could say. But it is also just like it's coming at a problem that is a lot bigger than just like what each child has in their hand. And it's just a little tone deaf to have it come from Apple, which is known for prestige and for, being like this premium product that is not the most affordable.
Although they sure benefit from holding that line, and they are beholden to their shareholders, so it makes sense.
Yes.
And everything. They are a business; they want to sell these things, so it makes sense. But I mean, I've seen with my own eyes how these Chromebooks are used in schools, and I don't know, to a certain degree, like I'm actually really impressed, because there was a time when technology like that in schools was really hard to come by.
Yeah.
Chromebooks has really lowered the bar for the affordability of these things, and whether you as a user like Chromebooks or not, just the fact that it enables these kids to learn how to be internet users and to learn how to use computers and to rely on the Office suite and do all these things, like that's amazing. Like that's so cool.
And I mean, Apple.
Yeah.
Apple has what, $300 billion in cash or something, but you don't see them developing a special low-cost laptop for schools. They could easily do that if they wanted to.
Absolutely, they could. Absolutely. That would actually be pretty smart, if they went in that direction. Then they end up getting the kids as Apple users even earlier than when they are old enough to ask their parents for an iPhone.
They used to deal a lot with the schools that focus more on the creative arts. I remember that.
Well, even when I was growing up, we had, granted, I grew up here in the Bay Area, so there's obviously
there's a little difference.
Yeah, but here we had Apple computers in the classroom, and then they just stopped getting upgraded after the iMac.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
The only
They
problem
mostly gave up on education, I think. Just wasn't making enough money.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with the Chromebooks in school is one situation, one of my boys had to do something at home on the computer, and I told him to go to the start menu, and he was like, the what? And it blew my mind, and I thought, no, they don't use Windows in school.
They don't use Windows. They use computers.
Right.
But they're the Chrome OS.
It's Chrome OS.
Yeah, it's Chrome OS. So they're learning on
Chrome
Chrome
OS
OS.
is way easier to manage, though, at scale.
For sure.
Definitely.
No question. Well, and every OS is different, right? So you could have had a Mac at home, and that could have been their first time using that too. Like, that's part of computers as well, is learning how each different OS is different. They are different. They're the same, but they're also very different. So
it opened my
that's part of the
eyes.
education. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's take a break and thank the sponsor, and then we'll get back into more awesome news from the week. But first, this episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by ExpressVPN. I'm a big fan of ExpressVPN. I've been using ExpressVPN for a while. It's super reliable. It's fast. That's one of the things I really love about it, because I've used VPN before where you log on and it's like your speeds go all the way slow. And you're like, all right, I realize I'm being safe right now, but my goodness, it's taking a long time to load this page. It's just really reliable. It's an awesome way to make sure that your network data is secure without slowing that speed down. So why should you care about encrypting your data, which is exactly what ExpressVPN does? It's easy for hackers to bypass Wi-Fi security, and they can steal your information by exploiting flaws, things like crack, which is a key reinstallation attack, just as one example. If you ever use Wi-Fi at a hotel or at a shopping mall, what you're doing is you're sending data over an open network most of the time, meaning no encryption is happening at all. It's just like open data ready to be grabbed out of thin air by the person who actually knows how to get at it. The best way to ensure that all of your data is encrypted and can't be read by hackers is by using ExpressVPN. You can download the app on your computer or your smartphone and then use the internet as you normally would. It's just running in the background. Once you click that one button, you're secure. 100% of your network data is protected. ExpressVPN is fast, it's reliable, and it's recommended as the #1 VPN provider by TechRadar and CNET. ExpressVPN takes privacy and security to the next level. They actually invented a technology that they call Trusted Server to ensure that VPN servers run from RAM and no data logs are written to the server's hard drive, even by accident. So that's protecting you even further. Like I said, I use it. I love it. I have it on my phone. I have it on my computer. And you can even set it so that like when you reboot your computer, it runs automatically. Especially on the computer, there's kind of there's an option so that if it goes offline, your internet access is cut. So if you want to be absolutely sure that your data is passing through that tunnel, it makes sure that if for whatever reason ExpressVPN stops working, your data isn't going to then slip through and you'll be unprotected for that amount of time. It's really, really handy feature. If you want the best in online security and privacy protection, head over to expressvpn.com/twig. You'll get 3 extra months free with a 1-year package when you do that. Protect your internet today with the VPN that I trust to keep my data safe. You should too. Go to expressvpn.com/twig to get started. And we thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Okay, what do you think about this? If you go to the Google store and you do a search and you want to get one of the new Nest Minis, you can find it. It's there. It's $49. If you go to the Google store and you didn't know that Nest Mini is a thing and you do a search for the Google Home Mini, you can find it. It costs $49. Mm-hmm. So basically these two products, one the evolution of the other, are listed on the store, not cross-referenced in any way. So when you go to the Google Home Mini page, it doesn't say, hey, there's a newer version of this, and it costs exactly the same. Right. Over here, this is a very small story, I totally admit, but Little things like that just bug me, I
They
guess.
have all of this power of managing and collecting data, but they can't quite figure out cross-referencing and proper indexing.
Or maybe there's a reason. maybe it's okay. I don't know.
My favorite thing was the other day when we put up because we just moved, so we had to put up all the stuff back in the house. And I have a what used to be called the Google Home Hub upstairs, and it showed up on the network as the Nest Hub. And my husband goes, "What is the Nest Hub?" And I was like, you missed the memo that these things were being renamed in the process of us moving. And I have one of those Nest Mini, by the way. I like the name because it doesn't pop up the command the way that the other name did when I would say it around the device.
Oh, it doesn't.
I'm afraid to say it.
Okay.
Because I don't want to activate it.
The
Hey
G
G
word, you mean?
Anytime you say the G word, it's like the device is going to listening mode. It's like,
Yeah.
Are you talking
Even
about
if you say something that sounds like the G word?
Yeah, are you talking about Hey Boomer?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
apparently that will awaken them. It didn't just awaken mine, but I know that it does.
That actually happened at my house too. Yes, when we were really leaning into that meme.
Yes, I know.
So funny.
It's also a bummer too, because I know this is a small story, but just like a little tip out there for like folks who are thinking about doing a stocking stuffer or something. These could fit into a relatively big stocking.
Yeah. Sure.
The second gen is way better than the first gen.
Way better. Yeah.
The second gen, actually, you put it against the wall, and I'm finally using this. It uses the wall to kind of like reverberate the bass and like actually fill the room with music. I mean, this comes from just a small little tiny
That's awesome.
speaker.
I mean, the hardware is like the same size, but they did make a noticeable improvement to the sound. I will totally admit to that.
Industrial design at its best, right?
And you can
Yeah, it
stereo
sounds
pair
really
them
good.
now. Like
That's really nice. You know what? I totally forgot about that. Could I stereo pair a Home Mini and a Nest Mini, or is it just the Nest Minis?
I have to Google that for you.
Hold on, let me Google that for you. I actually don't know the answer to that
Pretty
because
I don't either, yeah.
It's only the Nest.
so I have to get another one in order to stereo pair it. Okay, that's fine.
They locked it down for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer. But still, very weird that you pay the same price to get the outdated tech. It's almost like Google needs to take those offline and like give them away or something.
Yep, that's coming soon. Actually,
Maybe when you buy a Pixel 4 XL or
They've been trying to give them away.
we'll have a
so
stack of
many.
them. They'll show up at the studio here soon.
They're like tribbles. They just keep multiplying.
Yeah.
They have nowhere to go.
It's true. I don't even have I have one too many for my house now after getting the Nest Mini. It's like, okay, now I've got this one. I have no idea where to put it. Do I put it in the hallway?
Put it by the mailbox.
Put it by the mailbox. Are you spending much time out by your mailbox?
I have my moments. Don't judge me.
Okay. Just curious.
It's for turning on the outdoor lights.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do have outdoor lights that are controlled by a smart switch. That's not a bad idea. But would the Google Home Mini be very weather resistant?
Absolutely not.
I'm convinced
I mean,
that it would
the
not.
2 days that it will rain this winter, it will be destroyed.
Okay, bad idea then. Never mind.
We tried.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see here. There's some. Okay, I'm going to go in a different direction. The Daily Beast submitted a test ad to Google and Twitter, among others, to test the platform's approval process. This happens every once in a while where they make an ad and see, like, how are they being vetted? What's happening behind the scenes? The ads were filled with debunked claims, conspiracy theories associated with anti-vax vaccination talking points, things like, don't get vaccinated, know the truth first, call now, read this before you vaccinate, want to know the truth, vaccines aren't safe, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. We're probably going to get some email, but whatever.
Here it comes.
Google and Twitter approved them. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Snapchat did not. And this after platforms had pledged to crack down on the anti-vax messaging. That's
interesting. There's so much garbage on Snapchat. Like, I'm actually really surprised it did not
they
make
submit
it
it
to
before
Snapchat.
coffee or after coffee? That might make a difference too.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that
It's
question.
so weird that Facebook this seems to me to be a political topic.
Right.
And Facebook did not approve these ads, and Twitter approved them. So it's like flipped.
So Facebook has a special category for health misinformation. So that's the one thing that they make a special case of. That and voter suppression are the only two things that they crack down on, regardless of their other policies about advertising.
Oh, okay. So this fell firmly in line with that.
That helps that metric.
All right. Interesting, though. You're right, Karsten. Interesting that Twitter approved them after. I guess identifying these things. I mean, how hard is it to identify? Again,
the interesting thing is, it says in here that they didn't even do half of what actual sort of spammers who are trying to spread this information do, which is kind of use vague language or like imagery and try and kind of slip it past, the censors. They just literally came out and said, vaccinations kill you or whatever, and they still couldn't catch it.
They went as obvious as possible, and it still happened. Huh? That's interesting.
I'd like to see that test done a couple times, not just once. Because you can't really say this was a foolproof plan based on just submitting it one time and getting one result.
Well, that's true.
Give it a law of averages, if you will.
Right.
Just submit it a couple times.
A coordinated effort.
Right. Just then get back to me. Let me know how it went.
Yeah.
That would seem.
So according to this, Google didn't just approve them. It sent multiple emails prompting them to optimize their ads.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
Yeah, don't do that right now, but Google. Bad idea. Not right now. Especially, I mean, not don't do that period, but especially not right now. Okay then. Well, maybe they'll win the next Daily Beast test that I'm sure is already being figured out at this very moment.
I should run an ad for myself. I should just run an ad.
What would you? I'm curious. What would your ad be?
Proceed.
The Flow feed. It would just be my website. Just come to my website.
You should do that and then post a report and let us know how that goes.
Be my friend. Come hang out with me. That's like what I would advertise. Why not?
Why not? Let's see here. I think. Oh, you know what? Okay, we got Flo here. Let's talk about this, Flo. You talked about it a little bit last night. Your article on the Pixel 4. Mathew, what phone are you using right now? Do you have the latest?
So I have a Huawei P20.
Oh, really? Do you like it? Oh, well, yeah. What do you think of it?
I do. So I bought it for the cameras because it has a bunch of amazing lenses in it. And it does fantastic low light and zoom. I'm a little upset that I won't be getting any more Google software updates, I guess. But it is a great phone.
Now, you bought the P20 before the...
Yeah.
Can we call it a brouhaha? Qualifies as a brouhaha.
Yes, it does.
So you bought it beforehand, and then when all that started happening, were you pretty upset, like kind of regretting your purchase?
I feel like things are probably going to keep working for a while, and maybe I won't get updates of Google Maps or whatever. But I feel like stuff is probably still going to keep working, and then once it stops, I get a new phone, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And meanwhile, all my data is backed up in Shenzhen somewhere, I think.
Well, that's comforting. If you ever need to get it, you can just go there and pick it all up. You could also, I realize I'm totally straying away from the story. We'll get back to it in a second, Flo. This was a little tangent. But you could also use a site like APK Mirror, I imagine, to do updates on your apps. It's a little more work for you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There are ways to keep it updated. Yeah.
And it is a great phone. It's the cameras are amazing.
Yeah. No, that's what I've heard. That's
not the one Matteo Donning has, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has some great shots with that thing. Goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Flo, I teased it, and then we strayed, and now we're back. Pixel 4, we spoke about it a little bit last night and all about Android. Everybody should definitely go to AndroidPolice.com and check out Flo's article. But I thought it would make, you should make your case here as well. Why do you think people should not upgrade to the Pixel 4? And upgrade from what?
I have a lot of opinions about why not to. Some of the things I included, some people did not agree with me about, like, for instance, how I don't like the density between the Pixel 4 and Pixel 3. That's completely subjective.
Okay.
And you can go yell at me in the Android Police comments about that if you'd like to. But in the other terms, we have to really consider things like this is not a full upgrade to last year's Pixel 3. Now, I'm still on the Pixel 3, and I still love it. And I just got the latest Google camera update. So it gave me that updated astrophotography mode.
Yeah.
It gave me that updated social share mode, like all these little, tidbits that came with the Pixel 4. And it doesn't feel like a lot of what was announced at the New York event when they debuted the phone was going to be exclusive to just this flagship. Now, the things that are exclusive are things like motion sense, which when we had talked on All About Android, I had shared the opinion that I felt like it didn't really come through in the proper package. I felt that like maybe the phone wasn't really the way to debut this, and maybe hinging a flagship product on the fact that you can wave at it it's just not a marketing appeal the way adding maybe more cameras to the back would have been. The telephoto lens is great up to 2 times for that optical zoom, but past that, you're getting that really grainy digital ability, and it just feels like with what Samsung and Apple are doing, like the Pixel 4 is just not really there. And for the price point, it's like, what is the point in getting this? Not to mention, like, it's black, white, or orange, which
not enough colors.
I didn't include that in the article, but I was thinking about that after the fact of just like one of the reasons I am holding on to the Pixel 3 is purely aesthetic, which is that I have the not pink version. And, because they try and do that thing where they launch a special color with every Pixel device. But it just seemed, I don't know, there's just something not entirely cohesive about this lineup. Also, to add to the fact that battery life has not gotten any better since the last couple of Pixels. I mean, we're shrinking the battery, we're making the phones thinner, but we're not really getting the kind of performance that we're sort of promised in the demonstrations.
Yeah. And you are a recent Pixel 4 XL-er.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Twit, for purchasing this here Pixel XL 4.
Well, and it matches your favorite team.
Yes. It's a beautiful orange color.
What have you thought in the short time that you've had it? You've had it now.
I've only been using it for about 4 days now.
Okay, so
And I agree with Miss Flo on a lot of the points. I actually have the Pixel 2 XL that I was using before this, and switching over to the 4 XL, not much difference in experience for me, because the OS is just fairly clean and it's not much of a bells and whistles to worry about. The photography part is what I was curious about and really wanted to dive into it. I couldn't wait to mount it on a tripod and set it up and see how well this Astro stuff would do. And it was sort of underwhelming.
Okay.
But again, I've only had it a couple of days. I want to spend a little more time with it. I agree with Ms. Flo regarding the zoom, the optical zoom. 1x fine, 2x fine. Go beyond that, not so much. 2x really did surprise me how well it looked, but I just don't think they should have touted the zoom ability on this phone because it's not there yet.
I gotta say, the Huawei, I've gone to 5 times zoom, and it's mind-boggling. Like, it's like you just took a regular photo.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Jealous on that point.
Yeah,
I think Mathew had done a demo like that for All About Android, where he had put, I think he was in Rome, if I recall, and he had put a banana, banana for scale, all the way like a statue across a busy intersection, and he zoomed in with one of the Huawei cameras.
Right.
And the banana was perfectly intact, like where it was laying against the statue.
Yeah.
And
it was sharp.
I think about that demo, and I think about all the cameras that are affixed to the back of the iPhone, the Samsung phones, various Chinese manufacturers. Like, just to have the wide angle, like the ultra wide angle, the zoom. If you're going to just throw it all in, I mean, why not?
I will say this though, I'm a different use case, but I use little lens attachments like this, and it
is that the Moment?
This is a black eye lens, very similar to Moment when it comes to quality. And I attached it just earlier to take a picture of our friend Mr. Mo and the security guard. And man, it really does make a difference on quality if you can give it a little additional glass. But that's for any phone though. But the Pixel 4 camera is nice for just standard shots, but you can really maximize it with stuff like this, or if you just sort of understand composition a little bit better. Most people are just out there doing snapshots and stuff like that. And I don't intend on doing that. That's why I said I want to give it a little more time. I just haven't had time to shoot with it yet since I've been back home.
Yep. You just got it. Yeah. I mean, I spoke about it a little bit last night. I'm really happy with the camera. I've gotten some really excellent pictures with the camera. And even the zoom, like I realize that it's not perfect. Like the zoom, I think they call it super res zoom. It's like an AI assisted zooming capability.
AI is not ready for that just yet.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I've got some really interesting pictures out of it that are way better than any digital zoom I've ever used. But you still see that kind of like crustiness around the edges, not perfectly sharp, just a tiny bit kind of like blurry around the edges. So yeah, it's not perfect. Now,
it's not an improvement over the Pixel 3. I love the pictures I'm still taking.
Totally.
With the Pixel 3.
Yep. And you'll get great pictures out of the Pixel 3. The camera systems are very similar, I think. So, if the 3 works, and the 3A, $400.
Again, the whole astrophotography, it was fun to try it out for the first time. I've only done it once.
Yeah.
And it was fun to just, put it on a tripod and just watch it. And it took 3 minutes to do that capture. Now, that's not necessarily saying the shutter was open for 3 minutes.
Right.
And it's just all computational. And it did a pretty good job. But again, it don't necessarily zoom in. Trying to do astro, definitely keep it wide. And you'll get a little bit better result. I want to try a little bit more, maybe doing a little bit of photo stacking or something like that. I know that's not something everybody's going to do, but I think it would be a way to maximize the capability of it just by.
Well, apparently, the Pixel 4 does that for you with its.
But that's kind of how they're
Live
doing
HDR Plus.
Yeah.
Well, no, not necessarily from an HDR standpoint, just more of getting more frames, a wider shot. And stacking,
I see.
Stacking that way, I plan on trying that out. It should be pretty easy with the tripod and just sitting and waiting and throwing it into Photoshop or Lightroom and doing what we do.
You are a super user, a power user.
I have a quick question for Ant. You had taken a picture during the fires that looked really cool, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was on Sonoma Mountain. And
what camera did you use for that?
That was with my 60 Mark II.
Oh, that was with a camera. Okay. I thought you did that with the phone. I was like, wow.
No, that was with my 60 Mark II.
Okay.
But yeah, that shot was eye-opening because we're standing on the mountain at sunrise. And to the left of the frame is where the sun was. The sunlight was shining in. But straight back at the, looking straight out to the center of the frame, it looks like there was more sun, but that was the fire. And
that's interesting.
It just really shook me up a little bit when I saw that. It's like, wow, that looks like sunrise.
Welcome to California, Ant.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. P30, that's the one you have, right, Mathew?
20.
Or the
P20.
P20. Oh, okay.
P20 Pro.
So P20, you are still going to get updates. I mean, I don't know how Huawei is how dialed into it they're going to be, but these were all out prior to the ban. I was just looking this up prior to the ban, of course.
Really?
And
so you're grandfathered if it's before the ban. Okay.
Yeah, so you're not out of luck. You're actually in a good position, I think, with the P20. So you're going to continue. Huawei says it will continue to provide security updates and after-sales service to all existing Huawei and Honor smartphones. Provide service and support, including software updates or patches to existing Huawei handsets. How closely they adhere to that promise remains to be seen,
right.
but they are allowed to under the ban. It's just new phones going forward that were affected. So that's good news for you. That is good news.
Somebody in the chat asked if they should just buy a Pixel 2 XL. I'd say, yeah, you'd get it a lot cheaper right now, and you're still going to get really good functionality
Buy
out
a
of it.
3A XL.
Or
Yeah.
3A, you know,
Buy a 3A XL.
you don't
Yeah.
have to
The
buy
Pixel
the
2
4.
it will stop getting any updates, any software updates at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
So you have a
Still
year
got a
with it. So
year.
if you can get it like under 200, go for it.
Yeah, totally.
But even this P4 is going to be marked down even more on like Black Friday or whatever. Heck, it's already been knocked down by about $400,
like $300.
right?
Yeah, it's going to be down. I think I saw $200 expected, maybe on Amazon on Black Friday, $200 off, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You get it
every
cheaper.
year people say, like, you know not to buy the Pixel right when it comes out.
All right, just wait.
Because that price is going to drop immediately, and sure enough, it does. But that's what Black Friday is all about. Again, we talked about that a little bit last night. But apparently, some Pixel 3 and 3 XL owners are complaining of shutdown issues. This might sound familiar if you ever had the 6P. Remember this?
Yes, I remember. I remember this problem.
I lusted after that phone.
Yeah, the Nexus 6P. It's been a while. I ran across it. I was like, I got to bring that in for my
That's why I
Android Hall
bought
of
the
Fame.
Pixel.
This is?
The first gen Pixel is why I bought the first gen Pixel, because the Nexus 6P was having those problems, and I was like, can't do this anymore. I don't want to.
Yeah, the shutdown problems, and basically that led to a lawsuit and payout of $9.75 million from Google for users who had the 6P and it was shutting down and all that kind of stuff.
Mine was a review unit, so I did not benefit.
You did not benefit. Okay.
Wow.
Well, apparently there's some Pixel 3 and 3 XL owners who are suffering a similar fate. Some units are hitting 20 to 30% battery, and then boom, they rapidly deplete. You can actually watch the number kind of go down swiftly, or they just power off suddenly, and that's it. So apparently it's not as widespread as it was for the 6P, but I'm sure Google wants to avoid another payout. Although $9.75 million for Google is literally like pennies in the couch.
They put,
but
that's cab fare tips.
yes. But I'm sure that they would like to avoid that happening.
This whole battery thing, I meant to touch on that with regards to Ms. Flo's article. I think my battery is okay with the XL. What about you?
My battery's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
My
now,
battery is fine for how I use it.
I'm
totally fine with it.
It's almost 3 p.m. here on the West Coast, and I have 67%.
Oh my gosh, I also have 67%.
I do too. I have 67% also.
And
Oh my, I also do. I'm not even making it up. It says right here, 67%.
Are you serious?
Yes.
All right, Matthew, you're the tiebreaker here, or not a tiebreaker. Yours has to say 67%
man
or
out.
yeah, the odd man out there. Right. What does
It's
it
not
say?
showing now.
59.
59.
Close.
Yeah.
59.
Okay, you can stay. That's close enough.
But the battery hasn't really been an issue for me. Now, granted, I did turn off the 90 hertz display. I didn't see a need for it. I'm just scrolling through and looking at Instagram. I don't need a super fast refresh
Don't you want it
rate.
buttery smooth?
It's already smooth.
Buttery smooth spawn cons.
You know, I just don't see the need for
Oh,
that. So
sounds
maybe
weird.
that's why my battery is a little bit better than what's been advertised on the different blogospheres.
I have forced 90 hertz on,
Okay.
and I've I take it off at 5:30, off the charger at 5:30 in the morning. I put it on the charger somewhere around like 10, 10:30, 11 at night, and I always have 20 to 30% battery, usually closer to like 30%, 30, 35, right around there. It's been totally fine for me with forcing 90 hertz on.
Now, if I were to do like I did with my previous phone, some nights I would forget to put it on the charger because normally I'd do like you and put it on at 11 o'clock at night, something like that. But if I forget, I'd wake up and it would still have about 15% or something like that the next morning, and that's still pretty good if you ask me.
Yeah.
So what's the complaint about battery? Is it just because the 4 is a smaller milliamp hour. Is that the one everyone's complaining about?
That's the one, yes.
Okay, well, I get it. It's got smaller milliamp hour rating on it, so that's going to
I know,
happen.
but you watch, like, you stream one show on that thing. I mean, I'm glad I'm not commuting, because when I was commuting, I used to watch TV on my phone.
Okay.
And, you know.
Yeah,
it's that battery life to carry you all the way home.
Yes, it is a smaller battery, so that's what's going to happen. But Google should not have let that happen in the first place. And I think that's the big complaint, is that putting out a phone that you're charging premium price for, like they're positioning the Pixel 4 as a top-of-the-line premium phone, and that battery is really bad.
Both of
really
them are overpriced, the 4 and the 4
They
XL.
are. Yeah, they should be less expensive.
And my 3A, the battery is phenomenal.
Always comes back around to the 3A.
What is your battery life right now?
Carson's right.
Okay.
He's right.
We're at 67%. What are you?
Are you getting
the
a
weirdest
kickback,
thing about
Carson?
the 3A is it does not show you your battery percentage.
Okay.
It tells you when your phone will die.
Okay. So
My phone says until 10:45 a.m. tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Wow. Yeah,
okay.
That's outstanding.
Pretty good.
And it's guessing my usage, I guess, but it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Mine is saying until 12:30 tonight, allegedly. But I doubt that.
I'm convinced that your battery is at 67%. Let's just believe that it is, Karsten. Or 59%. 67 or 59% is where your battery is. End of story. We've decided. Let's see here. How about this? Let's sound the horns.
Uh-oh.
We got some Google changelog to get to. Not that.
ATC.
That doesn't look like a Google. There.
No.
There we go.
Google changelog.
Sorry, didn't mean to throw you a curveball there. My apologies.
It's been a long time since I screwed up that badly.
Yeah, that went in 3 different directions before we finally got there.
Really screwing up that.
It's all good. You can stay. You can stick around. We need you, Karsten. Google is rolling out the ability to edit your public profile from within Maps. That's editing your name, your bio, and how people see your contributions in Maps. This is a server-side rollout, so if you're not seeing it yet, you can look there. You might not even care. Like I never share any information through Maps, so this doesn't affect me, but some people do.
I do.
Do you? I really don't.
Community-wise.
Yeah, like community sharing in Maps, I never think to do it. I don't know.
Oh, I share photos everywhere.
Really?
You'll see them in Landmarks by Florence Ion.
Matthew, are you like a big time Maps sharer, data sharer?
I do actually. Yeah, I don't. I do actually share a lot of photos of things. Google, prompts you and says, "Hey, would you like to upload your photos of this thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. I found one. I got an email from Google not that long ago, and it said, "Your photos have been viewed over 1 million times." I'm like, "What?"
Yep.
Yeah. I get that too.
Why?
I get those.
Yeah.
too.
So I uploaded a photo of a restaurant, and they basically use it on their Google landing page.
Yep.
So anytime anybody looks for that restaurant, they get my photo.
I think I have like 5 million views overall on mine because I do the local guide stuff pretty regularly.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this kind of applies directly to you then.
Yeah, and it's helpful, especially from a map standpoint, the speed trap notification. You're going down the road and it'll tell you, because you would know because you turn your audio off, right? Didn't you say you turn your Maps audio off?
Yeah.
Well, the prompt will tell you, hey, there's a speed trap ahead in, half a mile.
Yeah, I see it when it happens, but I don't hear it. Sometimes I will put it on to just the alert mode. But what annoys me about that is if I'm listening to something and it's on alert mode, like that's what I want it to alert me as.
Right.
But every once in a while it gets like confused. Like every once in a while the Maps will start going and bouncing up and down and everything. And actually that happens on the Pixel 4 and it's super duper annoying. So I don't know if it's the phone or if it's Maps or what it is. But when it does that, every time it does it, it goes doo-doo. And then everything pauses.
Oh, yeah.
And then it starts playing, and then it goes doo-doo, and it pauses, and it goes back. And trying
to lock on.
That's a feature.
My God, it drives me insane. So, So yes, I turn it off
Note to
because
self.
otherwise I jump out the window of the car I'm driving.
Jason just may have road rage.
They keep you from falling asleep, I think.
Yes. Well, I did just drive back from Joshua Tree a couple of days ago, and it was a solid 11 hours there drive and 8 hours back. So it may have helped actually that it was doing me the whole time. Let's see here. A compact, the more compact version of Google Assistant is now rolling out for devices outside of the Pixel 4 camp. It has this like the compact look that you've seen on the Pixel 4. They redesigned Assistant on the Pixel 4 so things look tighter. It doesn't have the transparency that's found on the Pixel 4 version. Voice, you may remember, used to take up kind of the entire display. Now it shares the screen better with some of the other information that could be found there.
That's definitely useful.
Yeah, so a little bit of a UI change coming to you. Pixel owners will get a new sound option for when a call comes in. They're calling it, I think it's called something like a ramping ringer or something along those lines. Phones will be able to, you can turn on the settings so that your phone will vibrate for a few seconds before the ringer kicks in. So and then the ring will come in. If you go to settings, sounds, and then vibrate for calls, you can find the option in there. Once that update happens, I think it's going to all Pixel phones. So everyone will get the update. Even the Pixel 1, which wasn't supposed to get an update, but they're getting their last in December. So
it's near the end of life for those, right?
Yeah, they've already passed it actually. Google did good with the Pixel 1. They extended their update by a year on it. And then at that year point, they're still giving 2 extra updates to December.
Nice. One of my hardheads uses the OG Pixel.
Oh, really?
And he has no complaints about that phone whatsoever.
Still working, still rocking. Yeah, nice. Chrome OS will now show the date of which updates for the device will cease. And this is going to be found in settings. Go settings, about Chrome OS, update schedule, and it'll actually show you the date that you'll stop getting your updates, which in Chrome OS land is usually a pretty far ways out when compared to like
I'm a little scared
Pixel
to look
phones.
at mine. I have a Chromebook 2 from Toshiba that's a little long in the tooth. It'll probably laugh at me when I open that setting up.
I'm looking at mine. I don't have that
I still know
update
people
yet.
who are on that Chromebook.
Really? I love that thing. Man, I love that thing.
Yeah, I'm not getting
Some
it.
people just like really don't want to update, and it's just not a priority for them.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Chrome is going to begin to call out sites that historically load slowly and badge them, shame them while they are loading. So if you're loading a website, say it's website.com, it'll say loading website.com, usually loads slow with a big red exclamation mark. If it's typically fast, it's going to have a green progress indicator shown in place of the blue progress indicator. So,
how many people are going to pay attention to that little nugget? I
have no idea, but now you know.
If you go into
now
a
I
site,
will.
if you're going to a site, you're going to a site. You're going there for a reason, you know.
Yeah. But if it's loading slowly for you and you're like, oh man, is my connection bad? Oh no, it normally loads slow.
Okay, yeah.
Get your act together, website.com, I guess is what that's all about.
Lots of angry tweets coming.
Yes, exactly. Nest Hello is apparently stuck on Halloween mode. If you had a Nest Hello, you could turn on Halloween sounds and stuff.
Mr. Karsten rejoices now.
It's like
Halloween forever.
Halloween never ends. There was no way to revert to the normal sounds after turning on Halloween mode. But Google says a fix has been developed and is rolling out. I think there's going to be one of these modes for the holidays for Christmas coming up. So
I was waiting for a gobble gobble, like a turkey, like a turkey kind to do at the door. Like, why not?
Why not? Exactly. That should be in there. Maybe next year. And finally, Google's Teachable Machine site. I didn't realize this site existed. It was first launched 2 years ago. It's a way to kind of test training AI models without coding. And this launched 2 years ago. They have an update that's coming out now with more advanced training models. Now allows users to define more than 3 models. That was the previous limit. Now you can go more than that. Also expands It used to be just images that you could train with, and now it includes audio clips, pose data. I don't know if videos are in there, data set, your own data sets. You can bring your own data sets there, and you can download the model when done so that you can use it in your own projects.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty neato.
I'm all for getting this AI training right.
Yeah.
Any tool that they can put out there to help make this stuff work better than what it's been doing, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And that is the Google changelog.
Da-da-da.
Boom, 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 boom.
Apparently we don't have the there we go. I wasn't sure if I should just give up on it, but I had faith in you, Karsten.
Eventually I'll get there.
For whatever reason, it eluded Carson this time around. Next week, you can redeem yourself with Leo back in the chair. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we can do numbers, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we'll do that in a second. But first, this episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by Worldwide Technology. WWT began building their advanced technology center 10 years ago, and it has grown exponentially. It's like no other testing and research lab. The lab contains more than $500 million in equipment from hundreds of OEMs and key partners, ranging from heavyweights like NetApp, Cisco, and VMware, to emerging disruptors like Tanium, Equinix, and Expanse. WWT is a trusted partner who stays with you over the years. Many of their customers have been with them for over a decade because they know that WWT is where they can go to get the answers that they need to make sure their business runs right. Their ATC is an incubator for IT innovation. It offers on-demand and schedulable labs like NetApp, Cloud Volumes on Tap, on Flash, NetApp Disaster Recovery as a Service, along with hundreds of other labs representing newest advances in flash storage, multi-cloud, hyper-converged infrastructure, cloud data management, and so much more. You can learn about products before you launch. WWT's engineers use these environments to quickly spin up proofs of concept and pilots using the sandbox so customers can confidently select the best solutions. And in many cases, this reduces concept time from months to weeks, which in turn increases speed to market. They offer lab as a service. That's a dedicated lab space within the ATC. And this is where customers can perform programmatic testing using the vast technology ecosystem that WWT has already built. It's virtual, so you can take full advantage of ATC's unique benefits anywhere in the world 24/7. WWT engineers work in these labs every day. They're beta testing new equipment. They're building reference architectures and custom integrations to help their customers make decisions and see results faster and with much less investment. WWT has launched their new digital platform encompassing the ATC ecosystem. This ecosystem creates a multiplier effect of knowledge, speed, and agility anytime, anywhere around the world for their customers. You can get access to articles, case studies, hands-on labs, and other tools that make the difference in today's fast-paced world. You can learn more about WWT, the ATC, and even sign up for access to their new on-demand lab platform by going to wwt.com/twit. WWT simplifies the complex. That's wwt.com/twit. WWT is delivering business and technology outcomes around the world, and we thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Before we get into the tips, tricks, and things, I did want to circle back real quick here because I wanted, Mathew, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your piece that you wrote last week about disinformation on Facebook. I know it's like we keep dancing into this topic and out of it and into it and out of it throughout the course of this show. So I apologize we didn't talk about this earlier, but it occurred to me that we hadn't. And it was a good article. Tell us a little bit about what you were talking about there.
So this was a study that Avaz did. Avaz is a site that specializes in sort of community action. So they're sort of global action on policy issues like climate change, and disinformation is one of the things that they are hot about. So they did a study of disinformation on Facebook, and they looked in particular at sort of the most viral fake news stories. And what was surprising to me, at least, like, you know, we've all seen lots of misinformation on Facebook, but they looked at the two of the the top most shared stories, one about Trump and one about Nancy Pelosi, both of which were fact-checked by multiple partners that Facebook uses. And so when you tried to share, in particular, I think the Pelosi one, you would get a warning, a window would pop up and say, essentially, this thing is fake. So, you probably shouldn't share it. And if you do share things like this a lot, we're going to take action against your account. And it was still shared something like 89 million times.
Wow.
So, or at least viewed, 89 million times. Maybe not shared 89 million times. But so this is the most kind of action Facebook takes on misinformation. Pops up a warning, says it's been fact checked. Someone has said that it's not true. Please don't share it. We're going to take action against you if you keep sharing fake stuff. And people just go ahead and share it anyway. And then the algorithm shows it to millions of other people. And you get effectively 80, 90, 100 million people seeing these stories. So it just reinforced for me how, even with all these flags and warnings and basically jumping in front of people and yelling at them and saying, hey, this is fake, it just, it doesn't seem to have impacted the problem. It doesn't seem to have really reduced the problem at all.
Lip service is what you're saying?
It kind of feels that way.
Or it's a problem that can't be solved.
Or it's a problem,
by warnings and
this
pop-ups.
This is not Facebook's fault. Like, this is... Facebook is
fault,
trying
arguably.
to fix this.
Yeah.
They can't fix this. The fault is with the people that are spreading this.
That are choosing to spread it, even in the face of these warnings.
So help me to understand. If you have these warnings on the screen, there's usually an OK or cancel button, perhaps, right?
I'm not on Facebook, so I don't really know.
Yeah, me neither. So couldn't that be a part of the fix for the problem? All right, we can't let you share this. We're going to disable that OK button. We're going to disable that share button on this.
Well, you can't just...
So they don't want to stop you, they don't want to just prevent you from sharing things.
Yeah, at that point,
that's Facebook's
saying,
choice.
That's just saying you can't share this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I know that's a slippery slope. Just threw it out there.
In the Pelosi case, the Pelosi piece was marked as satire. So it was presumably people shared it because they thought it was funny. But the report mentioned that the satire tag was so small that it was quite easy to completely miss it. So that's a problem Facebook could quite easily solve. Part of the problem with the news that shows up on Facebook is it all looks the same. Something from a website that a couple of 15-year-olds in Macedonia created looks exactly the same as a website with hundreds of trained journalists. So they could make things look a little different based on, where the content comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If evil people are going to use Facebook to do evil, then that's what's going to happen.
Right. Or
the thing that strikes me whenever I talk so I've been talking to a lot of disinformation researchers about this stuff. And the one thing so Facebook, encourages you to share things, right? That's what they want you to do.
Right.
They'd love it if it was pictures of your cat or true news articles, but fundamentally, I don't think they actually care that much. I mean, I think they care a little bit, but what they really want you to do is share things. And so, it's to some extent, it's not a great environment for quote unquote truth or facts. It's just, if someone sees something and they're like, oh, that's shocking, amazing, horrifying, terrible, hilarious, whatever, they're going to click on it and they're going to share it.
Yeah.
Content is content. That's all it is.
At the end of the day, the choice is in the user's hand on what they do with it, what they decide.
And what Facebook focuses on is the emotional response. So no one has an emotional response to things that are factual or not factual, except maybe journalists. Most people are just, is this funny? Is it interesting? Is it dumb? Is it horrifying? That's what gets them to share.
Yeah. So true. So true. Awesome. I'm happy we got that in there. It occurred to me. I really wanted to hear your perspective on that here. So thank you for that. All right, so we are at the picks portion of the show, and let's see here. Ant, why don't we start with you? What you got?
Well, I wanted to share. This is from a photography friend. Well, I can call him a friend now. For Mr. Glenn Dewis. He's over in the UK, and he started a project about almost 2 years ago, I think. And he called it the 3945 Project. And basically, he's going to the World War II veterans over there and providing portraiture of them so they can have something to leave to their family and just, help spread the word and good cheer about all of these service people that served in the war and help, with them providing freedoms over there. And he just wanted to spread good cheer about it. And it has really, really taken off. It started out as he had a friend that I want to say it was his elder or someone that was in the war. And it's like, let me just do a picture for him. And he did it. And then he said, well, let me just take it the next step and just start seeking out more of these people. And he's been able to raise money for some of them. Some of these guys are just they don't have the money that they need for day-to-day life. So he's been able to start a fund to help go to a foundation so these folks could have regular meals every day and help pay some of their regular bills. But in addition to that, they get a memory with the photograph that they can give to their family members and things like that. It's a really good project. I think it's been going on about 2 years, but it's finally getting some legs and getting a lot of great attention. And Glenn Dewis is an outstanding photographer. Hoping to have him on Focus on Photography in the next couple of weeks. We're still working on that because he's pretty busy right now. But I love this project, 3945, and you can just see the pictures on the screen now. He's doing an insane job. And in his podcast, he gets to talk to them every now and then. And he's had the last episode of his podcast, he sat down with a bunch of the different service people, and they shared some stories. And the stories are just unbelievable and raw. Mm-hmm. And you hear it in their British accents. That's another cool thing for me to hear. But you hear it in their accents, and you hear some of the stories, and you think about they were like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Right. When this stuff was happening, and the things that they would tell, it's just, definitely check it out. 3945 Portrait I can't speak. 3945 Portrait Project for Mr. Glenn Dewis.
Yeah, if you go 394.
That sounds like a great project.
Yeah, absolutely. 3945portraits.com is where you can go. All one word, obviously. No underscore or anything like that. So nice. Excellent pick. I love your picks. I love them. You bring really good awareness to things, and I'm always curious. Thank you. Flo, what you got?
So we can bring articles to this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can bring anything you want. You can bring anything you want.
A twig pick. So I actually haven't fully delved into all of the details on this particular topic, but I thought it was interesting. This is This Week in Google, so this is definitely related. The headline of this article from New York Magazine, it's How to Mess Up Your Life by Trying to Use iMessage on an Android Phone. And I just think it's, this came out just a couple hours ago. I dropped it. I have a Discord, and I dropped it just in there, meaning to get back to it later. What's interesting to note is that this person actually, what they did is I guess they got something set up called AirMessage, and you can install, it's a server program that you install on a Mac computer, I guess, it's always running, it's always connected, and it's to help facilitate that connection to like the iMessage servers.
Right.
Wow. So I have, yet to get to like the conclusion of how this all ends, but obviously like the headline kind of gives it away that this is a lot more maybe trouble than it's worth. But I thought it was interesting because we talk so much about being the green bubble, those of us Android users, and just sometimes how it can be a little alienating to think about. Like, and we complain so much about Google's kind of not exactly synced up messaging strategy and what Apple users have. And it's just interesting to know, like, if you really want to try and become a part of that Apple ecosystem, like how much work it takes to kind of like get in there without actually having an iPhone. So I'm very curious to like just really dive into this article. I think it's going to be an interesting read. Just skimming through it, it's making me think, oh my God, this is just like not worth it. It seems like it's okay. I'll just miss out on whatever high resolution videos and things like that. The stuff that I don't get
anyways
to benefit from being, on the Android end.
Don't worry, the carriers have you covered with their form of RCS.
Don't even get me
coming up
started
somewhere
on
in the near future.
Oh, there's mentions of RCS in this as well, and how it's like absolutely not.
Yeah, I've heard of ways to do this where you can have something kind of running on your Mac that like relays the iMessage messages over to Android before, but what a kludge. I mean,
I just
but it works for some people.
I just noticed that iMessage was on my iPad.
Yeah,
and I need to figure out a way to disable that because I don't want to jump into that world and confuse people.
Yeah, that could be confusing for sure.
Because I'm like, why is this on my iPad? People use that on their tablets, I guess. Because isn't it essentially just
a
SMS?
messaging platform? So
there are reality TV show like narratives, like breakdowns that have happened because of the iMessage messages that have come through on an iPad.
Interesting.
Like relationships have been destroyed because of iMessage on an iPad.
So be careful.
Interesting.
Be careful with that
definitely
iPad.
Disable it if you can.
It's a powerful tool.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Flo. That's awesome. That can be found at New York or nymag.com.
Pretty cool.
Mathew, what you got?
So I was looking at, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Brave browser.
Yes.
Yep.
Indeed.
Yeah. So they just came out with 1.0, I think today. And I think it's, so I don't know if there's a whole bunch different in 1.0. I did play with an earlier version of it. And I'm interested in whether their cryptocurrency sort of payment thing is going to work. I don't know if you guys have talked about that before, the basic attention token, they call it. So you can earn tokens and then you can spend them compensating websites that participate in the program. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I like the privacy and security settings in Brave as well. So I'm thinking about trying it out as my main browser maybe and see. But the payment thing I think is interesting. No one's really ever been able to kind of crack that. We've had tip jars and sort of all sorts of attempts to kind of make that work, and honestly don't know whether this is going to work or not. But it's nice that they're trying.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that news today. I should also mention Brave is a sponsor on the Twit network, so this is not tied in with that in any way. But yeah, I saw the news that they went with the full version today, and definitely worth checking out because it's definitely an interesting approach to try and crack that nut that I think has been tried in many different ways, as it comes to compensating content producers and stuff like that. So
it's my default, by the way, on Android.
Oh, is it?
Really?
I don't use Chrome. I use Brave, which...
And you like it?
I do. There are some, as a browser, yes, I like it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I found websites load a lot faster, and I use the simplified mode when I need to get something into dark mode. So before this whole dark mode update, I was just simplifying using the Chromium ability to simplify text to kind of get it white on black. So it was easier on my eyes at night.
Right.
Because I love to read articles before bed. That's how I fall asleep.
So that you can dream about all that sweet news.
I actually did have like a weird dream the other night about like some people I read about in an article.
Yeah, I know.
You got to be careful what you read about.
Yeah, exactly. It used to totally be my habit where I would lay down and I'd spend 20 minutes
no politics.
scanning through Twitter.
These are like advice columns, like celebrity news,
not the
fun
hard stuff. Yeah. Well, I would just go into Twitter, and that would go wherever Twitter goes.
Yeah.
And then I'd try and go to sleep.
Yeah, you're all worked up then. Too late.
Thankfully, I don't do that anymore.
If people want to learn more about the Brave browser, we had an interview. Leo talked to their chief security officer, Yan Zhu, on triangulation a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Months ago.
This was August 23rd.
It was a really good show. People should check it out.
Excellent. Episode 411 of Triangulation. Nice. Great pick. Mine's a quick one. Just I'm sure everybody already heard that Disney Plus launched, and we took a look at it last night on All About Android. I signed up for the free trial, and then I'm like, there's actually some really great stuff in here. Like I might have to stick with it for a little while. It's really nice.
What will you cancel for it though?
What's that?
Mm-hmm. What will you cancel for it?
Well, I guess that's a good question. I don't know how long. I don't know. All I know is there's like when you're searching through here, like I've got a family. Like there's a lot of Disney happening in our house, and it's all here. Like most of it's here. There's some really cool stuff I want to check out The Mandalorian. So I don't know what I'd cancel. Maybe for a couple of months I wouldn't cancel anything, Flo. I'd just throw the streaming video money around.
Well, Nickelodeon announced that it would be partnering with Netflix today, so it's going to be an interesting award for your kids.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, and they own like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IP and like
they've licensed all the existing IP, and they're also going to work on new projects as well.
Yeah,
interesting.
My oldest son in the Army called me yesterday while we were recording a segment, and I was like, dude, what do you want? He says, hey, you got to get Disney Plus. You got to get Disney Plus. So I was, really? You called me to tell me this? So
I want to make sure you have it when you get home tonight so that we can watch Mandalorian. That's what I want to know.
It must be that good. Because he doesn't call me for anything. He called me to tell me you need to get Disney Plus. Okay, son. Thanks. Aren't you supposed to be working?
It's kind of a big deal, Dad.
I've already signed up they had a deal for Disney, special Disney people. You could get a deal 3 years for the price of 2.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So I've got that. Plus, I've got a free year from Verizon.
From Verizon.
So I'm already locked in to Disney Plus for the next 4 years.
Oh, wait a minute.
Nice.
Verizon has a freebie?
Yeah, if you're an unlimited Verizon subscriber, check your email. They are offering a free year of Disney Plus for unlimited subscribers.
I'll do that as soon as we cut the feed.
Wowza.
Your son will be happy, Ant.
Yes.
Oh, man. No, he already paid for his own. He's in the Army. He's in Texas. He's in El Paso, Texas. And he's a big junkie when it comes to this Marvel stuff and Star Wars but he never calls me for anything. I normally get a
you should
text.
check out the superhero project that Ron was talking about last night about Android.
Yeah. That sounded really interesting. Really interesting. Awesome. Oh, and that's so interesting about Nickelodeon and Netflix, because I think it was just yesterday. Like I turned on Netflix to watch a show and I saw a Nickelodeon show there, and I had that thought, like now that all the Disney content is coming out of Netflix, Netflix should have a deal. They had something going on with Nickelodeon, and apparently that's exactly what happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Good for kids. Awesome. Well, we have reached the end of this episode, and by golly, we had a lot of Google to talk about. I was wondering, but we made it work. Right on. Appreciate it. Mathew, Ingram, really appreciate you hopping on with us for a few hours today. CJR.org is where people can follow Mathew's awesome work online. Where do you want people to follow you? Like CJR.org is where your work is. What about Twitter?
Twitter's probably the best.
All right, at Mathew I on Twitter. Always great to get to talk with you, Mathew. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Absolutely. And Flo, so great to get you on a show 2 days in a row. Love
Thank
it.
you for having me here.
Absolutely. Flo, what do you want people to know? Where can they find all your work? Because you're writing for a few different places right now. You had Android Police.
For the internet. FlorenceIon.com is the best. I just updated it today with some of my my recent work that posted at Lifehacker and Android Police. And of course, I'm here on the Twit network everywhere. I'm on the Relay FM network, and I have my own podcast called Honestly Tech at honestlytechpod.com.
Radical. And you are radical. Thank you, Flo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And of course, Ant, thank you for sitting here in the studio once again. You will be back next week, and I will not.
I see the joy all over your face.
No, I love doing this show. Please don't mistake me. Like, I enjoy doing the show when I get the opportunity to do it. What do you want people to know? You've got some awesome shows going on right now. What can you tell
we
them?
have Focus on Photography, which will be recording and going out tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's twit.tv/FOP. As well as Hands-on Photography at 2 p.m. Pacific. That is twit.tv/hop, because we like to keep it simple around here.
Fop and Hop. Easy to remember. It kind of sounds like a Dr. Seuss book or something.
It does.
I didn't say that. You did.
You're right. I did, because it does. You're doing great work with the show.
Thank you.
And love it. So thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Karsten. Appreciate your help with the rundown and jumping in and pushing buttons and all that stuff.
And the changelog music.
Yes, and yeah, maybe not so much on the changelog, but you have some time to work on that. It's cool. Let's see here. I do Tech News Weekly is my next show. That's tomorrow. We've got a good show planned, so you should definitely check that out with me and Micah Sargent. Have some interesting stuff coming up that I can't talk about at the end of the week, so stay tuned. You'll know it when you see it. And as for this show, twit.tv/TWIG for This Week in Google. Go there. You can find all the information that you need to know as far as how to subscribe to This Week in Google. All the links are there, or maybe you want to watch it on YouTube. We don't care how you get it. We just want to give you the information so that you can get it, and it's all there. You can also find the video to play it in the browser, all the subscribe links, and information on us recording live, which is every Wednesday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. I don't know if the website is accurate based on the time change at this point, but I'm going to go with that. You do the math. I'm not very good at math. But that is it for this week's episode of This Week in Google. It's been a lot of fun. Leo will see you next week. So will the rest of the cast here on Twig. See you guys. Bye.